Now, I always like to start my training sessions with showing you how you can access the Microsoft 365 apps. Now, lots of these come with a desktop application, but we're going to have a look at some of the online applications today. And I always like to suggest that people actually you log in through the EdPass portal. The reason why is that if you log in through the EdPass portal, it will prompt you to log in with your @school's email address, and then you're sure that you've got the correct account. I've just put the link in the chat as well, in case you're not sure about it. Now, once you got to EdPass, if you scroll down, you'll see under Productivity and Collaboration, a whole lot of different Microsoft applications that appear. But you've actually got access to a lot more than what you can see here. So the first place to explore is the Microsoft 365 portal. And when I click on that one, that takes me to the M365 homepage. Now in here, I've got some things that are recommended. So these might be things that I've opened recently. So Microsoft thinks I might want to continue working with them, or it might be things that my colleagues have opened and they're in some place that I can access as well. So they might have shared it with me, or maybe this file lives in a team that I'm a member of as well. So that's what you see in the recommended. And then the quick access as well is your recently opened things. But what we're going to look at today, right now, is on the left-hand side, and this gives us access to some of those other applications which we might not be familiar with. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on Apps. And then here I've got my familiar ones. But if I click or go to All Apps, I can now see all the applications that I have access to. Now, if you're based in a school, some of these might not be available to you, in which case you need to talk with your site leader and you might need to get your school ICT technician to enable some of these. But most of these you should have access to. Some of these we're going to have a look at in a bit of detail, but there's a few that we're not that I'm just going to mention before we go on. So Clipchamp is relatively new. That's a video editing tool. If you remember back in the day, Windows Movie Maker, this is the revamped version of Windows Movie Maker, Clipchamp. Bookings as well, we're not going to look in today, but if you are wanting to set up parent-teacher interview meetings or just interviews or spaces for people to book in to see yourself, Bookings is an application that allows you to set times and allows you to send links to people external as well for you to create, or for them to create bookings. But what we are going to go to and have a look at first of all is Outlook. Now this one should be familiar with, or most people should be familiar with Outlook. I'm just going to show you a couple of things in Outlook. So I'm going to click on the three dots and go open in a new tab, which will open my Outlook in a new tab. Now, most of this is pretty straightforward, or hopefully should be. I'm just going to click in Calendar though, and I'm just going to show you a couple of things in here. So at the moment, I've got my work week open. I've got my week and my work week. So if I do work part-time, I can go into my settings, and I'll put in a clip to how to do this later, and set my days so that people know that I only work part-time. So I might be working part-time at a site. And I can see in my calendar, if I go to my work week, just the days I work. You can see here it's got a little icon as well. And then if I click on week, I've got the other days. So that's just handy to know if you do work part-time, that you can set that up. In the left-hand menu, there's this tick here, which is to do. And this is a link from our Outlook into Microsoft Planner. So if you're a person that loves doing to-do lists, this might be something for you. You can add tasks. So here, run webinar. You can set when it's due and reminders and things like that. And then, of course, if you've done it, you can tick it off. This all syncs with Microsoft Planner as well, which is another application that you have access to. You can see also here it's got 5 flagged emails. So back in my mail, if I flag something in here and I go back in my to-do, it should have popped up. Maybe it hasn't caught up yet, but I should be able to see all the emails that I flagged. Must be this one here. Yep, it's changed to 6. So that's quite handy if I'm not wanting to scroll through all my emails and find the ones I flagged. I can come in here and see them there. Over in the top right, I've got another few things that are quite handy. So the OneNote here actually allows me to just write quick notes. So again, I might have seen an email and I might need to follow up with Sam's parents. So I've got to follow it up on an email, and I can just add that in as a note, and then I can see those notes there. Okay, and if you need to get to the settings, that's our settings for Outlook there. Any questions on Outlook? As I said, please feel free to type in the chat. If not, we will move on to our next application. So I've just gone back to the M365 homepage, and the one we're going to have a look at briefly now is OneDrive. So again, I'm going to hover over those 3 dots and go open in new tab. Now, OneDrive is our online cloud storage space. You have 1 terabyte of space, and this is where you keep your personal work files. Again, I'm on my homepage and I've got those recommended and the other applications down there. In OneDrive, I've got some things down the side which are quite handy. So if I'm looking for an image that I've saved into my OneDrive, if I click in the Browse by Files Media, that automatically takes me to all my images, so I don't have to remember where I've saved it. I can just click on it and access it because I can get it to it through that shortcut. My files here have all the things that I've saved myself. Now you might find that you've never used OneDrive before, but you've actually saved some things in the online version of some of your applications, in which case you might find you've got a whole lot of documents down here. So if that is the case for you, it might be time before school gets really busy to go in and have a look and see whether you still need some of those documents or whether you can delete them. My files here, I can keep private. You can see these ones are private, or I can share them with people as well. Back in over here in shared, I can see all the ones that have been shared with me or I've shared. So you can see this one here lives under this John O'Sullivan's account. So that's not my file, but he shared it with me. And then I can see some here live under teams, and that's why they've got that name of a team rather than a person. Click back into my files. There's some really cool features of OneDrive, which is why it's great to save your work in the cloud on OneDrive rather than on your desktop computer. One of them is that you can access anything from anywhere from any device. So if I've saved something on my computer. I might go home, forget my laptop, or not have the same device at home, and I can't access the file and do my work. But if I've saved it to OneDrive, even if I forget my laptop, if I've got it on my phone, for example, I can still access that file on my phone or from a different device. It also means that I'm not having to deal with lots of USBs all the time because I've saved everything to my OneDrive. Another nice thing about OneDrive is it's got something called version history. And this allows me to go back in time and reinstate a previous version of a document that I've saved. So this is really handy if I've shared a document with someone and they've overwritten it. Like maybe I prepared an excursion form for the zoo. I shared it with my colleague and they changed it to a beach excursion. So I can go in, if it's saved in OneDrive, I can see who's viewed it, but I can also go in, and if I go to version history here, I can see that this particular file has been saved 8 times. And then if I know that it was version 6, that's the correct one, I can go in and restore that. So that's another really good thing about saving things on OneDrive. If you do find you make a mistake, you delete something or a colleague deletes something, you can always restore something from a previous version. This is really handy with students as well. Don't know if it was just me, but sometimes I used to get students come up to me in tears because they'd lost all their work. If they're saving things in OneDrive, chances are you can show them how to get that version history. The other nice thing about OneDrive is that you can share. Now, OneDrive is our me files, the files that I'm personally working on, but I do maybe want to share a file with a colleague so that they can look over it or so that they can keep their own copy. So again, if I've saved it in OneDrive, I don't have to email a file out and then I see a typo and I have to re-email it. I can just send them a link. And I can also see in here who has viewed it, when they viewed it. And also if I've shared it, I'll go to manage access. I can see who I've shared it with and what they can do. So here, John, he can't edit it, he can view it, he can download it, but he can't edit it. And I can easily stop sharing as well, all in OneDrive. Okay, that was a really condensed tour of OneDrive. Let's go back now into our apps, and we're going to have a quick look at OneNote. So OneNote is here. You'll also see Staff Notebook because we've got the education version of M365, and you'll also see Class Notebook. Class Notebook and Staff Notebook are special types of OneNotes that are created depending on which type of team you create in Microsoft Teams. But let's go into OneNote. So again, I've got a similar layout where I've got, I can create a new OneNote, or I've got access to the OneNotes that I use frequently. I'm just going to go into a couple of examples. So OneNote does look quite different if you've never used OneNote before. It's an electronic or a digital notebook, a bit like those old, you know, the yellow thick spirally notebooks with the different tabs. So OneNotes have lots of different sections that you can add, and then within these sections you can add pages. Now, what is really nice about OneNote is that it's not just text that you can add, but you can add video, you can add audio, you can add links to things, you can link to things, link to different pages in your OneNote as well, and you can share them with your team. So this example here is an example for staff meetings. You can see I've got a section for agendas, so I can quickly change between the different weeks. And then I've got a section for minutes. So again, instead of opening up a Word document or finding it in my emails or finding it in the team, I can quickly just click between the different weeks in my staff meeting and find the things that I want, or I can use the search as well to find the information. And there's my search there. This is another example. So this is a teaching example. I used to use OneNote as my whiteboard. So this is an example where I've got a worksheet or a game that I want my students to play. And in this example, you can see I've got up on the board what we've been working on, and we've written it down as we're working. The nice thing about this is that when I go to my English, and that hasn't loaded properly, see whether this loads, and then the next day I go back to my maths, I don't have to start again, it's all there, and OneNote is never ending, so I can add below or add to the sides as well. This is another example. So this is my personal example. So you can use OneNote to organise your own life. So you might want notes from PD sessions. You can see here I wrote my notes by hand, and then I took a photo of it and added that photo directly into my OneNote. I've also got a video recording that I recorded directly into the OneNote as well. And you can see I can organise everything in different sections and add as many pages as I want as well. So that's some examples of how you might use OneNote. Again, everyone's very quiet, so please feel free to put in a question if you have any questions. Otherwise, let's move on to the next app. And I forgot to press the 3 dots and open in a new window. How do I add photos? I'll just go back into that one there. So if it's installed on a phone or an iPad, for example, you can add photos directly in. So you can insert from your camera. So actually I could insert a picture. I can't because I'm using it for Teams, but I could insert it directly. But if I'm using on a mobile device, for example, I can do it that way. If it's already saved, I can insert something from this device, for example. So I can just put in a picture, and then I can type text around it. Or if I've got a stylus or I'm using my whiteboard, I can do my writing around it and do my arrows and whatnot as well. There are so many cool features with OneNote, and we can't go into them today, but if this is something that interests you, I've got some information that you can have an explore of after, or I'm running another session later in the year on OneNote as well. Okay, let's go back to our apps. Now, the next app we're going to have a quick look at is something called Sway. I will remember this time to do my 3 dots and open in new tab. So Sway is kind of like a web page creator, and there's quite a few ways you can use it. One of my favorites is actually using it with students and doing something called start from a topic. Now, if you choose this one and you put in a topic, let's just put in dinosaur. What it will actually do is it will go to Wikipedia, not the greatest source, but a good place for students to start. And it will create an outline of this presentation. So it really helps and supports students to write information reports. Now you'll notice I can't actually go in and copy and paste that. So as a student, this is quite complex, but I'd need to have a read of that and see if I could summarize it and then write my summary in there. You can see it's added some bits already. It's given me a heading and some text I could include as well. And then if I go play, you can see it's probably not the nicest example, but you can see it's already put in the pictures in there so that as a student I can focus on the writing bit rather than getting the pictures and what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to show you a few more examples of Sway. So this is another example, and quite a few schools use Sway for their newsletters. Let's go play. Unfortunately, last year they made a change, so you're no longer able to embed video files. You need to link to a file where the video already lives, say on YouTube, but you still get some nice things that you can do with a Sway. So you can see again, this one's nicely formatted. It's got some headings coming in, some nice pictures. And if I bring it down and make it a bit smaller, you can see that those dots up there are telling me it's changing. So if I'm now watching or reading this as a parent on a mobile phone, you can see it's changed so I can read that text. So it's what we call responsive, which means it's nice and easy for people to read on different devices. Now, one of the nice things about Sways is that you can share it externally. So I can create a presentation or a newsletter and share it with the wider school community. So again, another example, this is one giving people information about a program that my team runs. And again, you can see it's got those nice drop-ins. I've embedded a video link and some pictures as well. And then the last example I'm going to show you is the student portfolio. So there are quite a few high schools that use Sway for their student portfolios, again, because students can share this with people outside of the department. This isn't the greatest formatting, but it's just to give you an idea that the student might create theirs and talk about the different things that they're doing, add some pictures that are labelled, add some tables and things that they plan to do for their goals. The other nice thing about Sway is you do get these analytics. So that means that instead of just sending out a PDF for my newsletter, for example, I can go in and I can see how many people viewed this, how long they spent, and how much was read. So for example, this example newsletter, people only got about a third of the way through. So that tells me that maybe my newsletters are too long, or that I need to make sure that the most important information is in that top third, or that I need to change the format so that people keep reading. Maybe I need to add more images. So that's really nice that you get those analytics. I don't know who's read it, but I can see how many people have read it and how many people glanced at it or read it quickly or read it in depth. Any questions about Sway? Okay. The last app that we're going to go in depth in is Microsoft Forms. So Forms is again another one of those apps that you can share outside of the department. So it's great for teachers or leadership wanting to share something with parents, or students wanting to collect data for maths, for example. So again, I'm just going to show you some examples. So this one here is an example of a registration form for canteen volunteers. It's got some required questions, so the person has to put in an answer before they can submit the form. You'll also see it's got this immersive reader icon next to it. That means that you can hear what the question says. We're going to have a look at immersive reader in a moment, so I won't go into that. But it wants us to put in something. Don't have to do that one because there's not an asterisk. And then this one, if I say several days a week, for example, it wants me to add some more things before I click on submit. Here's another example. This is a quiz. So this is something that I could prepare as a teacher. And again, this one's got branching. So this is more of a formative quiz than a summative quiz. So here I've got a question. It's worth 1 point. Have a look. I think it's this. And I've got it wrong. So the teacher has put in this support. So I've got some more support. The small hand is the hours. Let's try again. And then this time I'm going to get it right. And then I can move on to the next one. Again, this is really good if you've got questions that are multiple choice, but you can also put in questions that require longer text. Then it won't self-mark it, but it will help you as a teacher organise everything. And the other nice thing about doing things in forms is that once everyone has submitted or when people have submitted, you can actually open all that data with the form responses in Excel. This here as well is an example of the snapshot of data that you get for a form. So I can see here that this particular form has 107 people that have responded, how long it took people to answer, and then I've got some graphs that help me visualize really quickly the responses. If it's a text type response, I get these word clouds as well that help me see, Minecraft is the thing that was mentioned the most often. So that's really nice about Microsoft Forms. Okay, now I think I've gone through most of the apps that I was going to touch on today. So we're now going to have a look at our accessibility tools and learning accelerators. Now we've only got 15 minutes, so we'll see how much we can get through. But the first tool we're going to have a look at is Microsoft Dictate. Now Microsoft Dictate is available in a number of applications, but the one we want to look at today is in Word Online. So if you haven't already, can you make sure you go to the Microsoft page or get to it through the EdPass portal? I'll just drop the link in the chat again. And I want you to open up Word Online. And then once you've done that, if you can give me a thumbs up in the reactions, I know that we're ready to move on. Thanks, Dasha and Karen. I'll give people another minute. Excellent. Okay, so I'm in Word Online. Thanks, Lauren. I'm just going to get a blank document. Now, when I click on this document is automatically saving in my OneDrive. So the first thing I want to do is actually rename it so I don't get 10,000 documents saved. So I'm just going to click in here and I'm just going to call this Dictate. example, and fingers crossed it works for me, because sometimes it doesn't when I'm using Teams. It's different every time. But in here, I can see I've got this dictate in the home tab. Now, if I click on the arrow down, I've got transcribe and dictate. This allows me, if I click on dictate, say allow. Oh, it might not work for me. See where it's working now. Are you working dictate? It looks like it is. So this allows me to talk and it will transcribe into the Word document what I'm saying. This is really good if I'm quicker at talking than I am typing, or it's really good to introduce to my students if they're much better at talking about their ideas than they are at trying to type them down. So I could use this to do a bit of a brainstorm around what I'm going to write, and then I can go back and read it through, edit it, have a look at it and see what's going on. Now, if you are a language teacher, are there any language teachers on the call? Oh, I'll show you one more time. Someone's got lost. So I will stop that. I'm in Word. I've just done a blank document. I don't have to do this, but it's good practice to rename it as soon as you create it. And then I want to use dictate. So I'm in the home page, and along there I've got that microphone icon, and it is now listening, and you can see it's typing for me what I'm saying. Were there any language teachers? Hopefully there were, maybe. If you are a language teacher, if you go to the settings, you can change the language. So I'm going to change it to French and save. And now, hopefully, if I speak in French, it will translate it, or it will put it in for me. Donc, si je parle en français, il va me dire ce que je vais écrire. It's not having a good time. Let's see, one more time. French save. Si je parle en français, il devrait écrire ce que je dis en français. Let's try again. Si je parle en français, il devrait écrire ce que je... Okay, it's not working for me today, but normally it will then write in the second language that I'm speaking other than English and put in my accents and things like that. So if I am a second language teacher, it's really good for the accent of the students to see whether, if they're dictating it, whether the computer picks it up. Okay, so hopefully most people have had a little bit of a play with that. Because the second tool we're going to look at is also in Microsoft Word. Now, if you haven't got any text in your Word document, you'll need to put in a couple of lines of text now. So if dictate has worked for you, you can say something quickly. If it's not, if you type something in, or if you copy and paste some text in from another document, because the tool we're going to look at now is something called Immersive Reader. So again, I'll give people a moment to put some text into their document, and just give me a thumbs up when you've got a couple of lines of text in your document. Thanks, Sylvia. Perfect. Okay. So Immersive Reader can be found in lots of different programs. We saw the symbol when we looked at forms, but if I go to, hopefully I get it right, View, it's this little symbol here. So it's in Minecraft, it's in Teams, it's in PowerPoint, it's in Forms, it's in heaps of applications. So if I click on Immersive Reader, it is available in the desktop version, but it's slightly different, which is why it's nice to use it in the Word Online. If I click here on Immersive Reader, what that is going to do is going to take my text and it's going to space it out so that it's easier for me to read. Now, this tool was developed by Microsoft for students with, or aiding students with dyslexia, but it's a brilliant tool that can aid all students. Right, so if I'm not a strong reader, I can press the play and it will actually play it back to me. I've also got some settings up here. So if I go to the text preferences, I can pick, if this screen isn't how I read or I have trouble, I can pick a different thing. I can pick a different font, and actually Comic Sans is the easiest font for dyslexic students to read. I can pick a text size, and the computer should remember this the next time I log on as well. I'm going to get rid of show source formatting. I can increase or decrease the spacing, so increasing is good for me. In the second option here, the grammar options, this is where I might have this on my board, and then I can highlight all the nouns or all the verbs. I can do the different parts of speech. If I'm using a program that associates different parts of speech with different colours, I can also change that for the different colours as well. So again, this is handy, or I might want to take a screenshot of this and put it in a OneNote, for example, so that I can then do some annotations for my students. I can also do the syllables. The last option here is where I can go to put in a picture dictionary. So if I hover over the word or click on the word, I get some visual clues in here. I can click on here, and I don't know if I've shared my sound. I don't think I have, but if I click there, it will say it for me as well. Also, if I'm working with students that don't have English as a first language, I've got this translate option here. So I can pick their home language. Not all of them will say it, but most of them will translate it. And I want to do the document. And so now this will put it into that language that I've asked to translate it. If I hover over there, it will give me the English word as well and some picture clues, because I've still got the picture dictionary on. I can also do my line focus. So if I just want one sentence at a time in view, I can do that. So let's go back to the original and move on. And now I can't get out of line focus. So I might have to refresh. There we go again. So I'm going back to view and back into Immersive Reader. Okay. The other feature in here you see is something called Reading Coach. So again, this is something relatively new. And what this does is it allows you to get students practicing their reading, and the computer will give them some immediate feedback. So here you can see this has changed your microphone. And again, if I start reading now, it will count down. I can read what it says. So, and it is now listening, and you can see it's typing for me what I'm saying. Now, it won't give me a very high accuracy score because I didn't read very much of the text, but you can see it's given me some immediate feedback. And if I go to the practice words, it's going to pick 5 words that it thought that I didn't pronounce that great. And I can practice those ones. So again, that's under that third option and reading coach there. So that's a really good way to get students that immediate feedback with their reading. Okay, now we've just about run out of time. There were another few tools that I won't have time to go into depth with today, but I will just point them out. So one of them is live captions. I've just got a little video on this one. This is live captions in Teams. So I'm going into the settings and accessibility, and I'm turning on my live captions. And now if I'm in a meeting, or even if I've got the Teams on in the background while I'm teaching, it should come up with captions down the bottom there. That also works in PowerPoint. So again, if you've got something out the front of the classroom and you want students to be able to read, so maybe English is their second language, you can turn on live captions in PowerPoint as well. There's another one called Rehearse Coach, which is similar to the one that we just did, but it's in PowerPoint. And again, it will ask me to present, and then when I stop it, it will give me some feedback. So it tells me about my pitch, my originality. Let's go back. If I'm using repetitive language, if I'm using filler words, interjections. So it's giving my student that immediate feedback. So that's Rehearse Coach as well, and I'll pass on some more information on how to access that when I do my follow-up email. Now, these ones here that I've just shown you all have kind of like a cousin, which is built into Microsoft Teams if you're using Teams for classrooms. Again, I'm running out of time, but I will quickly show you. Past G, I think. Returned, no, ready to grade. Maybe I won't quickly show you. They've disappeared. Let's see if it's in grades. One of them is be helpful if I was in the right class. Here we go. So one of them is called Reading Progress. This you can do on an iPad for students, or they can do it on a laptop. And this one here is sort of like a running record. The student can read it. In this case, they just did the audio, not the visual, but you can get them to record the video as well. And then it will go through and pick out what or how the student read. Now I can listen back, and if the computer hasn't picked it up properly, I can change that. But it's a really nice way of getting a really clear snapshot. The best thing is if you have the whole class reading the same text, it will give you an idea of where the whole class sits and what words the whole class are having trouble with. Or you can set it up as individual assignments so that the students reading at this level get the right level and the students reading at this level get the right level as well. There's a whole lot of new AI features that have just been brought into Reading Progress as well. So if you have used it before and haven't looked at it for a while, it'd be worth looking at it because there's a whole lot of pre-built features that take some of the work away from us busy teachers. As well as that one, there's also something called Search Progress, which again guides students on how to search. So it's all about information literacy. And this one, if you set it up in class teams, allows you to see what websites the students are looking at and what things they see or they think are good places or good sources. So this one, no links were opened. So this one I might give the students some feedback about. They should actually look at the sources before they save them. But it's a good way as a teacher to see the research process. There's also a new one called Maths Progress. And this one is a bit like a form, but it also allows you to highlight some of the misconceptions that you're seeing and again get a snapshot of how the class is doing. And it looks like it's not going to load for me, but we have run out of time anyway. So again, that might be one that you investigate. Here we are. So I can change the misconceptions. I can put in multiple choice, but I can put in short answer text as well. If it's done it wrong, well, this one isn't wrong, but I can go and correct things as well in there as well. So hopefully you got something out of the session today. I've got a couple of things that I'm going to point you to in terms of resources, if I can find the right window. So if you want to do some more self-learning, a great place to have a look at is the Microsoft Learn website. I do suggest that you create your own login because then it will record what your learning is. The Educator Centre has lots of self-paced courses that you can do on all of the Microsoft apps, which are set for teachers and people in classrooms. We also have a YouTube channel where it's mostly me. We record short videos on how to do different things, but they're all in our tenancy. So if you find something here, unless it's been updated and doesn't work anymore due to an update, you should be able to it should work in our tenancy. If you haven't checked it out already, have a look at the Digital Skills dashboard. This is on Plink. You can find it under the Explore and Digital Skills. And this is where you can find our upcoming ICT sessions and some more resources as well. So have a look at that. And then if you want some additional support, you've got a question, you can't find the answer anywhere, we also have the M365 App Support and Collaboration team. So you're welcome to join this team, and that's got lots of people throughout the department. And if someone from Digital Skills doesn't answer, someone else is likely to give you an answer. So please have a look at that.